Ladies and gentlemen, special guest on the show this evening, Jonathan. What a pleasure, man. Thanks for taking some time today, man.
Thank you for having me on.
How are you feeling now that you've launched your game? The title's out there.
Well, I'm feeling good because, well, we've announced the game, so to be clear, right? We haven't
Hmm.
launched it in the sense of like it is not yet available for people. So
No.
that time is not until next year. But getting ready to just publicly announce the game and talk to people about it and all that it's like a whole process. And I've been doing that for the past couple weeks. It's gone well, but it is a lot of work. And so actually this week, it's a little chill. Just I'm back to sort of regular working on the game, which, there's always a lot to do. So it's not like I'm like, oh, it's so
Yeah.
slow or anything. But it's just not quite this. Like trying to put together a trailer is a very complicated process.
Who did the
No
trailer?
matter what.
Did you? I guess you had a big hand in it, obviously.
We, we worked with a couple of companies to try to do, because again, we're working with a publisher for the first time. We have some marketing budget to do a bigger, flashier trailer. And so there's a number of like studios that uh, do this, right, as their
Mm.
whole business. And we worked with a couple, and I don't know, I didn't love that process. Part of it was that it was very rushed. So we had about 2 months notice before we were going into the Game Awards that we were going to be in there. And so then we have to figure out what is the trailer even going to be and what are we going to try to do? And let's start working with one of these companies and let's see if they have an idea for a trailer that's better than us. And that takes some weeks. And oh, they don't. Well, let's sort of go ahead with ours. Oh, that's not working with this partner. Let's try someone else. So there was a lot of this kind of thing, and it's a hassle. But
Bit of a shit show.
I wouldn't go that far. But it's not the kind of process that I love to do. Like anytime you're working with an external party that has its own organizational structure and momentum to how fast things happen and all that, there's always this thing where small decisions take an entire day or whatever. When you don't have that many days till the event, that can be difficult. But I think we came out with something that uh, is good in the end, I think. I could imagine having done more, but given the constraints, like, we have 90 seconds. It's for a general audience. So, like, well, okay. So, this award show was 4 hours long. As far as I recall, we were literally the only puzzle game in the entire show, right? Like 90 seconds out of four
Pretty
hours,
much, yeah. Which is a good
which
thing,
is
right?
it's good if people are like, oh, puzzle game, and also, if um just to seem different from what's around you in the show, right? On the other
Mm.
hand, uh there could sort of be this thing where like, oh, I'm here to see a awesome God of War game or something. What is this crap, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you get the plus and the minus of that, I think. But so, it was like, how do we, like, we didn't just want to do like a teaser that doesn't tell you anything about it. It's a really complicated game, and us
Mm.
being a smaller team, I wanted to explain like the basics of the game because I wanted to answer the question that someone would implicitly have. Why do I care about this as opposed to like 1,000 other puzzle games that I could play, right? And so I you could think of a few different routes to try to answer that question, but I was doing it sort of just by like, look, it's this game with this really complicated structure and it's got all these things going on and all that. And then cramming all that into 90 seconds is pretty challenging, you know?
I can
But
imagine.
yeah, we had before working with these external agencies as well, and also while working with them, we'd been sort of just doing our own in-house rough draft of a trailer that we weren't taking that serious. Like it wasn't like well
Yeah.
edited or anything, but just like let's put the ideas in sequence and see how they work and try messing them around, and that helped a lot, I'll
I love
say.
the shot where it comes out of the overworld and you see everything. I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of gave me just chills.
Yeah. Well, so that's another one of the challenges is like, okay, we're not. we don't have the time or the money to do what a lot of these trailers do, which is like, let's hire an animation house to do like a 2 minute long 3D
Yeah.
movie or something, right? And so those feel very glitzy, but on the downside, gamers often complain like, I want to see the game. I don't want to see like a cutscene or whatever, right? I don't know if they had that. I'm not saying they had that complaint about this year. I've been too busy to pay attention, but like, just that, like going back to E3 in the old days and stuff, that is the complaint that people would often have is like, how do I know if the game's any good, right? If I'm just watching animations. But that wasn't an option for us. And so it was like, okay, how do we, mostly from gameplay footage and then a little bit of like, graphics overlay and stuff, how do we do compelling things? Like what can we show to people that's interesting? And that's a good so regardless or independent of making a trailer, right? The thing that's good about this time of development is it's when you start doing that. You know, uh, you start thinking about how exactly does this look when somebody else who doesn't know this game looks at the screen? What are they seeing? What's going into their brain? And as a designer, you do that actually all through development because that's how you know what decisions to make when you're making the game. But it's a different level of seriousness and it's a different level of detail when you get to this point where you're like, okay,
Mm.
this is going to a trailer and a big show. And then going forward from here, we're going to be talking more publicly about the game. There's going to be all these times when we'll have it, probably I don't know what the schedule is going to be yet, but typically at a conference or a trade show, you might have a game there, or you might do, a press event where the press comes in and plays it, and
Hmm.
it just gets a lot more serious at that point in terms of like, okay, how good of a job are we doing on this thing that's exactly on the screen right now? So yeah, for the overworld thing, we decided in this rough draft that we did that we wanted to do an overworld shot, and that's actually very challenging for multiple reasons.
Mm.
Um, One reason is because the overworld's a very complicated part of the game, and the graphics were not done. Um,
It was patched
so,
up, was it? A little bit.
well, two things. One is we prioritize that over the
Mm.
weeks before the trailer was shot is like let's have some portions of the art team's effort go primarily into the overworld, which is fine because we also it's not like that works just for the trailer. We also need
No,
that
of
to finish
course.
the game, right? It's
Yeah.
just what order do you do things in?
Hmm.
Um, we didn't get all of it. Uh, Now in the trailer, we did want to show like overworld with like some fog of war and stuff and get that concept, but it just so happens that the fog is over the areas that don't have art yet. Um, you know,
I didn't even
uh,
notice. I'm going to look back now.
you would probably have to look pretty hard to notice,
Yeah.
but so that's one of the things. And the other thing is it's kind of a technical flourish the way we do that map because it literally there's a very big overworld, and when you go into the map mode in the game, it just pulls the camera straight up into the sky and like zooms in on the thing. So you're looking at the actual world from a bird's eye view, and it's like seamless, just like in the trailer, it's just seamless and all that. And that's a little bit of like a technical show off because most games couldn't really do that, right?
That's what I'm
That
saying.
because when you
Yeah.
when you try to show that many, like the walking around in the game from screen to screen is like one little screen of stuff, and that overworld is 120 something. I think it's 19 by 11 screens or something like that. Wait, no, that's wrong. So sorry, 19 is the number of squares horizontally on a screen. That's why the numbers weren't making sense to me. I was like, what? But it's some whatever the dimensions are of the number of screens on the overworld, it comes out to like somewhere between 110, 120, something like that. But uh that's a lot of stuff. And so we're still in development. This trailer's coming up. We want to shoot the trailer. We're frantically adding art to the overworld, which is by far the biggest, most complicated level in the game, right? A lot of the levels are just essentially smaller spaces. So we kind of don't know how the engine's going to hold up as we're massively adding all this art with very little time remaining to do the trailer. So that's a fun time. But it worked. I mean, we had prioritized this correctly. Like, look, um, just a couple months ago, we were very clear about this situation. Overworld's the most complicated level in the game. It's going to have the most stuff on it graphically. Our engine and gameplay code needs to be built to handle that. And as long as it can handle that, most of the rest of the levels are kind of easy, actually, because they have way less stuff. And that's a good way, you might get lulled into designing things the other way around, like, well, we should design for our typical case, right? But if you do that, then when you come along and try to do a big thing, even if it's rare in the game, like you want that experience to be good, especially if it's like the main hub that you keep going back to. And so um, maybe this is a little too rambly. I don't know if people understand what I'm saying, but like,
No, no, of course.
um, you know, you like having high standards for that kind of a thing is part of how you like who is a good game developer and who is not is to some extent a self-selected criterion. It's like what decision, of course, everybody's free to have their own opinion about who you think is a good developer, but a lot of the time it's like, did they do a good job on this thing or not, right? And you know, a lot of that, I mean, some of that is just do you know enough about game development to achieve the thing? But a lot of the time it's just choosing to do a good job on the thing or not. And like sometimes it sounds stupid, but a lot of the time, especially when modern games are so complicated, developers just sort of don't ever consciously choose to preemptively do a good job on a particular thing. And then they get to it and it's harder than they thought about, and it's a little too late to change the way you're doing everything. And so that thing isn't that good. Like that's a story of a lot of game development, you
Do you
know?
mean cutting corners where you shouldn't be?
Well, it's like, let's say you've got some fixed schedule by which the game has to be out, which for the majority of development, we didn't have that, although we just said the game's coming out in 2026. So now we at least have a vague schedule, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you've got some schedule, you've got some plan by which you're going to get all the work done, all the programming, all the art, all these
Hmm.
things. You've got those laid out on a calendar of some kind, right? And something happens, you get to some point, and it's like, oh, this one area of the game, let's pick an example that doesn't apply to this game, but like
Mm.
let's say you're doing a platformer like a Conker's Bad Fur Day, I don't know, whatever, one of those.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you've got different worlds. You've got the fire world and the ice world, or the let's say fire world, earth world, and crystal world, and then a few other worlds, right?
Mm.
And you just didn't think about it that much. And you go doing the worlds and you do fire world and you do earth world, whatever. And then you go to crystal world and you're like, oh man, the rendering engine is really slow now because we didn't think about the fact that the rendering effects that we use to make things look like crystal, like translucency with diffraction and all that, are actually pretty expensive. And we never made a scene beforehand to test how that would look. And like now, the frame rate is really slow in Crystal World, and we don't have that much time to figure this out because we've got this schedule that we've got to hit, right? So when that happens, like, do you delay the game? Do you cut Crystal World completely? Do you keep Crystal World, but you make your crystal effect kind of suck so it doesn't look that good,
Yeah.
right? What do you do? Um, and that's a very typical thing that happens in game development. And so one of the best things you can do is to try to get out ahead of that by proactively figuring out what is your biggest problem going to be. And, technically or whatever, or design wise or whatever it happens to be. And you just try to confront that problem early so you don't end up in that situation. And so for us, that was this. And so it turned out, that the frame rate was good enough. We have plenty of time left to optimize the engine still, but in this time frame of trying to hit the trailer,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the trailer is being live captured by the trailer editing people, and they want to capture it at 4K 60 FPS, right? And if the game can't run at 4K 60 FPS, we're not going to get a smooth capture. They could probably do some stuff to try to tweak it, but then it wouldn't be in sync with the sound and like all that, right?
yeah. Mm.
So so would the overworld run at 4K 60 FPS? And it did. On a fast machine, it did, right? And then we have a little more
Yeah.
time to like, go through and optimize some other stuff to get it, on lower end machines to run fast.